Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, we talk all the time about the digital world. You need a friend, and you need a professional friend there because it's loud and it's crowded. Folks at Oak City Tech will certainly take care of you with whatever you need from web design, social media, anything like that. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And here in the Triangle, our little slice of heaven here, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, each week about 35 chapters get together, over 500 members, and we are here to help each other grow our business. In our local small business success story this week is Lawrence Rosenthal. He owns the Raleigh Durham franchise for Marblelife. And Lawrence, good to see you today. How are things?
Things are great. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Oh, glad to have you here. So one of the neat things about Lawrence, is you'll find out here in a few minutes about how cool he is and what a background he has. But if you're watching online, you can see his background, and it's a before and after picture because Marble Life, they do hard surface repair, restoration, and maintenance. And behind you, Lawrence, give everybody a quick story about what the where those before and after pictures are from.
Sure. Yeah. So what you're looking at are the bathroom, or is a bathroom floor from the Library of Congress in Washington D.C. Our team went up there in early October, and we restored about 13 bathrooms that just had simple Mexican tile down, but they were really beaten up, and the grout was dirty. And so we cleaned the tile, color sealed the grout lines, and then put down an application called Tile Lock on top of the ceramic tiles, which kind of gives you that reflectivity and that dark color that you see in the restored after picture. I'm pointing the wrong way,
Yeah.
but the after picture.
And
Yeah.
what I like about this, especially when you get on Zoom calls, is most people would think, "Oh, the picture on your left, hang on a sec, I know geography was involved. Our right, it's not new, it's just clean."
Yeah, I mean, I'm still amazed by it. I mean, the color differential and the tile itself, like everyone understands that you can clean grout, you can color and seal grout, but to change the color of the tile itself is pretty astounding. It's neat.
And I know your guys enjoyed the trip up there. It was, an interesting project, anything that big, and certainly dealing with the government, their processes and procedures to go through. But I think it's cool, though, that you can tell people now that you and your team helped clean, restore, whatever word you want on it, something in the Library of Congress. I think that's cool.
I think so too. And actually, now the U.S. Supreme Court is talking to Marble Life about doing their bathrooms. So I hope to get the opportunity to go back and go in there.
All right, good deal. So the benefit of being part of a franchise, I know you're new to this world, not to small business, but to this world. There are benefits that come with that, and thankfully we're close enough to Washington D.C. where you can benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things Marble Life tries to do is go after what we would call national accounts. So Bed Bath and Beyond, for instance, is a national account where I don't have to chase that business. I get a phone call that a local Bed Bath store is ready to renovate their bathrooms, and we can go in and take care of it. So it's nice to have that activity.
Now, Lawrence is a member of RD28 Connections in Motion. They meet every Thursday right now on Zoom, but it's Thursday at lunchtime. You've been in BNI just a little bit, right? Couple of
A little
minutes,
less
as
than
we
a year.
say.
I
Yeah,
started last February.
yeah, that's amazing that it's been almost a year. Uh, and most of your focus is on residential.
That's right. I mean, and one of the reasons I got into a franchise was I needed a little bit of a playbook to start out as a small business owner, and their playbook really encourages you to focus on the residential market to begin with, kind of get that cash flow moving, and to start laying the seeds, the groundwork to move into commercial, the space industry going forward, which is something one of my goals for 2022 is to do more of that.
But I want people to know that their bathroom or their kitchen floor in their house, you can make the exact same progress with that you did at the Library of Congress. So if anybody's got kind of that flooring that just looks like blah, right? You can come
Yep.
in, and the grout though makes a big difference as well.
It really does. And while what the before and after pictures you see here are really more for, I would call it more of a commercial play to kind of lock everything down. It creates an impervious surface essentially. Um, but the color stealing of the grout line is very much a residential play, and it really delivers a great before and after of your bathrooms as well.
So if we've got some homeowners watching and listening, they've got one of those bathrooms or kitchens that's kind of close to they've at least thought about it because they've looked at it. What are some of their next steps to do to look into getting that looking like what you did at the Library of Congress?
I would suggest they just give me a call, and I would come out and take a look and consult with them and give them an idea of through our, through the equipment we use, what kind of cleaning of the tile and grout we could, what kind of results we can deliver, and whether it would be necessary to also do a color seal application on top of that. Often we go in and we can clean tile and grout, and the grout lines will lighten. They may not lighten as much as the homeowner would like, or they may not lighten in a uniform way, in which case we can apply a color seal and basically color the grout and seal it, but with any color they choose. You've got 10 shades of white and cream and gray and black and blue, like whatever you want to do, we can do it to your grout.
A lot of times, well, let me back up. Reality TV like HGTV and DIY channels are filled with shows of people who tried to do it themselves. And sometimes it just didn't end up the way they had hoped it would. When somebody tries to do it themselves, what are they using and why doesn't it usually work out?
So I haven't come across a lot of people who've tried to color seal their tile themselves, but we often come across people who are trying to get etches out of their marble vanities,
Yep.
or chip repairs on their granite counters, that sort of thing. And usually they're just using kind of consumer grade materials that aren't as effective as what we've got. If you've got a stain in your countertop, we have commercial products that will pull that stain out, uh, or most of it out, depending on what it is and how long it's been there. But usually the stuff you find at Home Depot doesn't really do very much for you. But more commonly than not, we run into instances where either a consumer or say a cleaning service uses the wrong cleaning product on natural stone. So marble, quartzite, granite, it can etch, it can become stained. And so it's highly advised not to clean your natural stones with things like vinegar or any sort of citric based product, even though you're trying to be environmentally friendly and you're looking for green products. Those green products usually have citric acids in them and they will etch your natural stone.
Interesting. And I know my brother and I owned a commercial cleaning company and a pest control company over the last couple of years. We've since sold both of those. And we ran into that as well. That was usually one of the first questions we got is, are your products green?
Right.
And what we learned, and we were early on for the commercial cleaning, this was early 2011, no, 2013. So that was 8 years ago, and a lot's changed since then. But we ran across this stuff with the pest control as well as is it green? And on the commercial cleaning, some of the green products didn't clean. And while we're all wanting the same goal is a safe product to use, some of that stuff just doesn't work. And I'm sure you've run into that as well. You want a product you can use in somebody's house, especially that's not going to, do any harm. But some of those that say that advertise, hey, this is a green product, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and to your point, what I find is that not only does it not often, but sometimes it doesn't work. But when it comes to natural stone, it damages the stone, which creates a whole nother host of issues to be able to restore it and correct that damage.
Yeah. And some things are just hard to do by yourself.
Sometimes it's easier to call a professional, I
Yeah.
guess.
And we came across that as well, especially on the pest control stuff. 'cause you're right, folks can go to Home Depot and they can buy stuff that'll, take care of bugs, but it doesn't get to the root of the problem. It's not
Right.
strong enough. The stuff we could buy, like what you can buy, a commercial grade, it just the over the counter stuff just wasn't strong enough to get to the root of the problem. It would solve it for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but it didn't do that, it didn't do what it
Mhm.
needed to do. And I know you've run across that as well.
Yeah, I've definitely run across that. I think the stores, probably from a liability perspective, they limit the strength of some of the products they sell because they know that the common guy trying to apply it might make a mistake and hurt themselves or hurt others in the process. So we're in a position to come in with stronger detergents and cleaners because we've been trained on how to deploy them and use them carefully.
And products like that, though, in the business world, the business owners are very aware of what people don't want in their house and what might, not be the best stuff. So there every week that stuff changes, it gets better, it gets
Hmm.
safer, and
Hmm.
for people to know that when they call you, you're not going to come in there with stuff that's going to, make their house stink.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually. It's a common question I get while I'm at someone's home and kind of assessing the situation. Is there going to be dust? Is there going to be a mess? Is there going to be a smell? Unfortunately for us, all those answers are no. So, we use water to trap the dust that we may create from grinding on stone, and our chemicals don't have any strong fumes to them. So it's a pleasant surprise to the homeowner who's concerned about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because all most industries have their myths, and that's one of them that, "Oh my god, they're gonna come in and do this to my bathroom floor, and when they're done, it's gonna be X, Y, and Z," and technology has made that, for the most part, a lot of that a non-issue, but businesses wanna walk in there like you, they wanna go in somebody's house, and when they leave, they want it to look like we were never there, except a cleaner
Exactly.
floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we really don't want to get a whole bunch of Google reviews about how much
No.
dust or the smell that was created from the process. So fortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah, 15 years ago, that may have happened because you're
Right.
learning and, into things are just getting started. But now, you come in. So I know years ago, I tried to clean grout with a toothbrush and some stuff from Home Depot. And man, that was just a killer on my back, my knees, my budget, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And a toothbrush wasn't built to clean grout. I was told by a
Yep,
friend,
that's
and
true.
it didn't end up well. So, Amnon,
Yeah.
you had a story about, the tile on Lawrence's right, which is our left.
Yeah, the lighter, uh, tiles remind me of the tiles that we had in Israel, in Jerusalem. They were really sorry about that.
He's got a call here to make more money, so hang on a sec.
No,
He's gonna put him on hold.
and, they did not have grout in between. I'm remembering picking up as a kid, picking up those tiles, and it was like there was dust underneath them, but they were over an inch thick.
Hmm.
And they held in place. I mean, eh, they didn't have as much space as they do here when they put grout in between them, but they were still loose.
Hmm.
They won't pop out because they were real heavy. But I mean, we used to take them out, me and my brother, and take them out and hide stuff underneath, like, a note or something. You put it under and you cover it, and you hope that when your mom mops the
Yeah.
floor, it doesn't get, but it was just, I mean, I saw the color and it was that color
Okay.
exactly. The only thing is they were square, perfectly square, 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters.
Hmm.
Now,
And
did you steal his money, like a $10 a bill or a
no,
$5
we
bill and
didn't.
put it
No,
underneath there
we
and
didn't have that kind of stuff there.
okay, maybe a
No,
dollar bill.
no.
You're
And
giving me an idea that we could like cut the grout and make like a secret compartment where someone can
There
hide
you
their
go.
jewelry under the floor this way.
Yep.
And behind you, is tile, not marble, correct, Lawrence?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a Mexican tile.
Do you find more of that in homes that you go in to do work for?
I'd say it's a mix. I mean, I don't see a lot of this red Mexican tile like this, so we'll see. I mean, most homes have your ceramic or porcelain tile in it, and we don't. The minority is where you will find marble, travertine, or granite tile. Uh, we like it all and service it all, but I would say more often than not, it's a ceramic tile in your bathroom.
I was, impressed when I was doing because we've known each other for a little bit. We're both in the same BNI group, and as I've learned more about your business, that you guys use diamonds to clean, and I thought,
Yeah,
"Okay,
we use diamonds to hone off the wear, which are like low grit diamonds. They're more abrasive, so they will take a little bit of the top of a natural stone tile off, gets the wear off, and then we use very high grit diamonds to go over that area and polish it, essentially closing the pores. We open the pores of the stone up to remove the wear, and then with high grit diamonds, we're closing those pores up, and that's what creates that reflectivity and that gloss. So yeah, we use a variety. More often than not, we're going over the same floor, the same space of that floor, probably somewhere between 3 and 6 times, depending on how much gloss we're trying to deliver or how much wear needs to be removed. So yeah, we
wow."
have a variety of different diamond pads that we use.
I thought that was cool to learn because I thought they were just the regular buffing pads that I've used before, and then to come to find out they're not, explained a whole once you said that, it explained a whole lot.
Yeah, we have diamond pads. We also have something called dips, diamond impregnated pads, which is probably like what you're thinking of as a buffing pad, and that just has a variety of diamonds embedded in that pad, so that when it spins around, it's hitting that surface and doing its thing.
Now, the one of the funny stories out of the Library of Congress job was you put up basically police tape to
Yeah,
tell people these are educated adults not
yeah.
to go in the bathroom, and it kinda didn't work, did it?
Yeah, that was really frustrating, I gotta tell you. So, to do what you're looking in our background here, it's really a two-step or three-step process. First, you have to clean the floor, and then we color seal it. So we take care of the coloring of the grout lines and seal that. But before we put the tile lock application down, the floor has to be spotless. There can't be a grain of sand on the floor because otherwise the tile lock could potentially fail. So, we were going through 13 bathrooms, cleaning the floors, color sealing them, and then, quitting at that point for the night to come back the next morning and putting yellow caution tape across the doors, obviously saying this bathroom's not, available for use. For some reason, there were no locks on these bathroom doors, so we couldn't lock them. But in the morning, we'd come back and the yellow tape was taken off the walls, bundled up and thrown in the trash. We'd go in, we'd see muddy boots across the floor, and we'd be shaking our heads like, oh my God, we got to start this all
Yeah.
over again. The second time we did this, not only did we use the yellow caution tape, we took red duct tape and we did the seams of the door, the two sides, the top. It's still, someone came and ripped it all
Yeah.
off. Like,
Yeah.
who did we upset so badly that we deserve this fee? But anyway, it was very frustrating, and it definitely slowed us down, but we got through it.
And there were other bathrooms to use not far by, but they
Absolutely. Yeah. I
decided,
mean, there
"Let
was
me."
a whole logistical effort behind it, like making sure available bathrooms around the clock, and all this. But man,
Oh, too funny. We are here with
that
Lawrence
was
Rosen.
painful. So you
Yep.
think of it a funny story. For me, it just brings back bad memories.
Oh, yeah, well, it's funny. Well, yeah, it's funny when it doesn't happen to you. It's
Right.
like I have a pacemaker, and for me, that was major surgery. To my family and loved ones, like, as a procedure, no big deal." I'm like, "Yeah, you call it a procedure because it didn't happen to you."
Good
Yeah,
point.
so
Very
overnight, we're
fair.
sleeping. What do we care if somebody breaks into a bathroom? But, yeah, it is a royal pain in the butt, I'm sure of that,
Yeah, it
but
really was
it's a
disappointing.
it's a wonderful story, and those pictures are awesome, so I'm glad you guys
Yeah.
got to do that,
Thanks, Mike.
and that
Appreciate it.
helps explain to people because your world is very visual,
Yeah.
very visual. We know what,
Yeah.
"Oh, those need to be cleaned," to, "Oh my god, they can be cleaned like that," so
Right.
before and
Right.
afters are good. We are here with Lawrence Rosenthal, the owner of Marblelife of Raleigh. Lawrence is in RD28 Connections and Motions. You can go visit his chapter Thursdays at noon via Zoom. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We talk all the time about what could go away Speaking of dirty grout lines going away, in the digital world, Facebook take your page away, YouTube could take your page away. But if you do things like email list and things you can control, those can't go away. So those can help you get to your current and future clients. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help. All right, Lawrence. So one of the cool things for me doing this show is I just get to talk and share stories with people, but also do some research and learn some things. And I knew a little bit about you. We kind of know each other a little bit.
Sure.
But I did not know that you were named after Peter O'Toole. So
Yeah, so
tell me
that's
that story.
yeah, so that's kind of an interesting. Of course, when I was a child, I turned to my mom and said, why did you name me Lawrence? Not the most common name. And her answer was, well, I was in love with Peter O'Toole from the movie Lawrence of Arabia. So I knew that. And years later, I was studying abroad in China and found myself on a 3-day train ride from Shanghai to Beijing. This is back in 1986. And on the train was Peter O'Toole. He was on the train heading towards Confucius's hometown, where he was in the process of filming that movie, The Last Emperor. So I walked up to him. We're stuck on a train for the next 2, 3 days. I wasn't sure how far he was going down the line, but I was going to be on that train for a long time. So I walked up to him and kind of introduced myself and said, "Hey, I was named after you because of Lawrence of Arabia." And he turned to me and like cussed me out and said, "Leave me the hell alone, get lost." I was like, "Oh my God. I mean, what did I do?" I was I was absolutely shocked. And sure enough, that night we the train stops and you stop in a village, and it was Confucius's hometown. I didn't know he was going to be going there, and we set up in a hostel for the night, and then we went to a little pub kind of place. And sure enough, Peter O'Toole walks in there too. And I walk up to him like, "Hey, you bastard." I don't remember what I said, but I said something to him, was like, "All right, I'm not having any of this anymore. And you're no longer my favorite movie star, that's for sure." So anyway, that's the story.
So your mom one day was watching Lawrence of Arabia and Peter O'Toole. Nice.
She probably wished that I would be born with those blazing blue eyes he had in the
Hey,
movie, but
who
she was in love with him.
who's got that, right? So
Yeah.
your folks never shortened to Larry growing up or anything like that? Always
It
Lawrence?
really wasn't. My mom's from France. She's very formal, so she kind of didn't allow that to happen when I was young. Every once in a while, my brother-in-law calls me Larry, and that's about it. And he knows he's just doing it because he can, but yeah.
Now, I was going through your, Facebook page professionally, of course. I do stalk, doing research for
Right,
the
right.
show, but professionally. And I know you had told me you had gone up to get your parents for Thanksgiving, which was
Yeah.
cool. And they came down. Of course, you and we'll get to Michelle in a second. I know you have 3 boys, and there's a picture of your mom with a tray full of cookies. So
Right.
I can only assume, A, your 3 sons love your mother, but that's yet another reason why they love your mother, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they love when Nana cooks. So I drove up to Reston, Virginia, brought my parents back down here. We hadn't seen them for a while, and I was kind of concerned. My kids are getting older, and like, how many more opportunities do you get, to spend several days with your grandchildren? So, went up to get them, brought them down here for about a week, and Nana came with pie crusts and all the fillings, and she made 7 pies for Thanksgiving, which was like way over the top, of course. And then she started baking all these cookies because periodically she would bake cookies and mail them to my kids. I've got 2 at university. They'll get a care box from her every once in a while. But
Nice.
everyone noted that she came down with pies and no cookies, and there was some grumblings about that. So she, after Thanksgiving, the Friday, Saturday after, started making a whole bunch of cookies for everybody.
So what kind of pies did she make?
So she makes 3 or 4 key pies. Of course, pumpkins. There was pumpkin pie, sweet potato, cranberry, cranberry raspberry pie, but my favorite is the pecan Kahlua. So it's a pecan pie with a whole bunch of Kahlua liqueur in it, and that is just an awesome, awesome pie.
I'm gonna have to mention that to my wife, and also her dad is a I've told this story on the show before. Her dad is a dual threat because he can cook and bake. So
Yeah.
he'll get you with the brisket at 5 o'clock off the grill, and then
Oh,
hammer away with the apple pie at 7:30 after the brisket. He can do both, and he's very
oh my
good at it.
gosh. Well,
Uh,
that is awesome.
pecan pie with Kahlua. I like
Oh
that.
yeah, pecan Kahlua
I
pie.
like that.
I'll get you the recipe so you can share it with your dad.
Yeah,
Or your
that'd be great, yeah, and
yeah.
your mom is of French descent?
Yeah, yeah, born and raised. My dad met her. He was in the U.S. Army and was stationed abroad, and met her. She was working on an army base,
Okay.
and they met and got well. They ended up well. She's Catholic. He's Jewish, so there was some conflict there. They ended up having to drive to Germany to find a rabbi who would marry them because the church wouldn't do it. And then they moved to the US and got married with civil servants here. And years later, got married a third time. That's the one I can remember because I was actually there for it in a Catholic church.
Oh,
So, yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Alright,
yeah,
so she saw one of those, handsome flyboys, right? And he
yeah.
saw
Well, he was a
the gorgeous
tank.
local.
Yeah, he was a gunner in the tank. He shot the tanks. But yeah,
My in-laws my father-in-law is retired Air Force, and so he was
okay.
a pilot, and, my mother-in-law was working on the base one day in Oklahoma, and in walks her future husband and, oh, yeah, so they move all over the world and everything, but those stories are fun. I love those moments in time, right?
Yeah,
Yep, your dad's not in the service, and you and I aren't talking today. It's that simple, right?
exactly. I think it's something about a man in uniform.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately for my wife, I would always wear a cleaning uniform, and that just, good thing we were married, earlier, so otherwise, I don't think that'd be such the draw, but,
Right.
one of my favorite questions on the show for married couples, you and Michelle, how did you meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
I think we do tell the story pretty similarly. We were both working for a publishing company called HarperCollins, and I'm not sure how to tell the story. We met on an elevator, essentially. The short version is we met on an elevator. She was holding a bunch of textbooks, and I offered to push the button to the floor she was going to. I didn't offer to take the books out of her hands, but I hit the button for the floor and she said, "Thanks, I owe you one." And it was the night of the holiday Christmas party. And I said, "Well, how about a dance later tonight at the company Christmas party?" So that's kind of how it started.
Wait, now that was a hope. How about a dance, right? You're
Yeah.
thinking cool and, what could go wrong if she's going to say no, and what are the odds she says yes, and she actually thought, "Hey, that's a good idea."
Yeah, it worked out. It had it worked out, but it was in jeopardy at one point because she saw me talking to another girl in the corner, also named Michelle, and I think she got a little pissed off about that. But in the end, I circled back to the correct Michelle
Mhm.
and was able to get that dance.
And, how would you grade your dancing skills in general?
Oh, that's an easy one. I'm definitely like a C minus
Yeah.
for sure.
And would
I'm a
she
Grateful Dead fan, so
Yeah.
if you know what if the impact on that means my dancing is usually standing in place and not doing a whole bunch of movement.
Yeah, my problem is when I have to engage my feet, it usually goes wrong from there, but, you also were at, how many Grateful Dead concerts have you been to?
Oh, many, many more than I'm comfortable announcing publicly.
Any chance you were in Atlanta in the mid-90s for a concert they played at the Omni right next to CNN Center?
No, I never made it all the way down to Atlanta, but I did travel basically from Maine to, I'd say, as south as Virginia to see shows and went out to California occasionally for them.
Alright, so here's my only run-in with Deadheads. I mean, I'm aware of them. I've seen it everything, right? So mid-90s, I'm working at Turner Sports in Atlanta, and our offices were downtown in the CNN Center, which is right next to I don't know if the Omni is still there, but it's back that's where the Hawks played back in the day. And the Grateful Dead's there, and when they come to town, my understanding is they stay 2 or 3, 4 nights for back to back to back shows, right?
Yep,
Because a
that's
lot of
usually
people
at
just
least.
because you
Yep,
guys are loyal as hell.
yep.
And the entrance to the CNN Center was on the side by the Omni, and some of your fellow deadheads decided, We don't need a hotel room. We'll just sleep right here.
No,
And man,
absolutely.
oh man, was that a strong odor.
Yeah,
Uh,
they can set up a camp pretty
yeah,
quickly and really just cordon the world off and to make their own little environment very easily.
yeah. And we know what the essence in the air was. It did not take long to distinguish that. Let me just say that.
Patchouli oil, right?
Sure, sure. Let's go with that. Let's go with
Yeah,
that. But man,
yeah, yeah,
their followers, you guys are loyal as all.
yeah. I would say it would be fun when they did would come to Madison Square Garden because I was living in the New York suburbs
Oh,
or
geez.
thereabouts at the time, and the only people who would come in and stay longer and do more shows was the Allman Brothers, which was also a
Oh,
blast. When the
really?
Allman Brothers would come and do 7, 9 nights in a row at Madison Square Garden, that was also a lot of fun when that was
Wow.
going down. Yeah.
Oh, I thought the only entertainment or the only entertainers in town longer than the Dead was the circus. I had no idea it'd be the Allman Brothers.
The Allman Brothers, yeah, I think honestly, I think the Allman Brothers played more nights at Madison Square Garden in a row than the Dead ever did. It's probably
Wow.
close, but like also, Bruce, if he
Yeah.
came in, he'd do several nights in a row. So there's other bands who would do several, but yeah, the Dead are doing it more, systematically
Yeah.
across the country all the time. I mean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
number of nights, days a year they're on tour was incredible. The number of days out of the year
But
in
yes, that
general.
was my first and only
Yeah,
introduction to the Deadheads, and it was
yeah,
impactful because that was so that would have been 94, 95. So, we're
hmm,
what are we on 30? Yeah, 25 years at
yeah,
least of that. So
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
very it stays with you. Another story that I enjoyed that you told me when we first met, and so this goes way back. A Tibetan sky burial.
Yeah, so very unusual thing. Usually piques people's interest, like what is that? So I didn't know about it till I visited Tibet at the end of my term abroad in China. So back in this is '86 again.
And for a little
Um,
context, you went to was it I wrote down, is it Nanjing University?
yep, Nanjing
So
Teachers College.
okay,
Yep,
so you
Nanjing
had been
Teachers
over
College, just
there.
near. Yep. So I was over there for a semester, just a
Yep.
little bit north and west of Shanghai. But at the end of the semester, I had 3 other buddies from the school, and we traveled. The 4 of us kind of traveled across China into Tibet and then down into Nepal and India. So it's kind of a neat little trip over the Himalayas. And when we were in Tibet, of course, we get high altitude sickness right away, and we can't move for 3 or 4 days while those white blood cells, or wait, it's red blood cells, are being made to carry the oxygen and get you back on your
Yeah.
feet. But one of the most incredible experiences of my life was seeing a sky burial, which essentially is how Tibetans are buried because the ground is frozen. They don't really bury you in the earth, and trees and wood is scarce. So cremation is limited to priests and holy people. And if you're a criminal or a bad person, they throw you in a lake and feed you to the fishes. But most people go through sky burial, which is there's ritual sites where this occurs throughout the country. And basically, you sit as a group, your family, your clan sits together. The body of the person who's passed away is in front of you, and the priest, a holy guy, will come with a machete and just start chopping the flesh off the bones of the body, and then take the bones and grind them up into a powder or thereabouts, and then gather that all up together and set it in basically a holy site, like a rock, that everyone's kind of standing around and then witnessing. And then vultures come down and land and eat the body. So that's what's called sky burial. And
Wow.
while it sounds really gruesome, it really isn't that gruesome to witness. The blood is drained from the body beforehand, so you're not seeing a lot of blood or anything. And when you watch what happens, all in all, you realize it's kind of like the cycle of life. It's a way that that life just kind of revolves and continues, and so it's an incredible experience to have. The one thing that can be problematic is when that first vulture comes down and rejects the body and doesn't go to eat the body but takes off. That's considered a bad omen, and that's what happened to me when I was there. So the people that I had already offered cartons of cigarettes and liquor to, and we were all sitting and getting along just fine, all of a sudden it all kind of fell apart, and they shoot us away. And as we backed up, they started throwing rocks at us, and we didn't understand what had gone wrong, but we understood later on that that was a bad omen. The bird rejected the body. We were no longer welcome, and so we hightailed it out of there. But yeah, it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, no doubt.
Now, how long did that process take before you guys were shooed away?
We were there probably for a couple of hours. It happens at dawn. So I mean, the one I went to, we had very vague instructions on how to get there. It's other backpackers who kind of tell you how to do it, how to go about this. It's illegal in China, which controls Tibet, of course. It's illegal for foreigners to participate in a sky burial, so it's not publicized. There's no official ways to do it, but the word on the street was, you leave before dawn, you head out on this road. When you hear water flowing, you're there. Get up on the hills and look for. And so you don't even know if anybody's died in the last day or two, if it's going to happen or not. But as the sun rises, it hits the snow, starts to melt the snow, and out of nowhere there was a stream, like a wide stream coming right at us along the road. That hadn't existed. It was dry moments earlier. And so we realized, well, we must be there. We look off to our left, and there's a truck, like an army kind of truck, parked out there. And we're like, man, something's over there. So we start running that way, realize that there's some sort of clan of Tibetans all sitting around
Wow.
chanting and smoking. And we were told to bring cartons of cigarettes and stuff, and to, make your offerings. And they would likely invite you down into the circle, which is what happened. And we probably sat there with them for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, while the priest started doing his preparations, and chants and prayers were being made. And then the whole thing kind of started, and we kind of backed off, and everyone kind of backs off and looking up on the hillside as the sun is rising, it looks like boulders, just like a craggy, rocky mountainside. And then you realize, as it becomes slightly lighter, that those round things are not boulders, they're birds. And all of a sudden the birds start coming down to eat the body. So it was really it was really an incredible moment to have.
So the vultures know the routine,
They know, they're camped out there, they're waiting and ready.
and the first one that came down did not take to the body for whatever
Yeah,
reason, but the
yeah,
assumption was because you guys were there.
absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we got quite concerned when they started throwing rocks at us, because there was, we had to walk all the way back into town, which was probably 3 or 4 miles. And they had that truck, and so they threw the rocks at us. They weren't like heaving it like a pitcher, like trying to peg us. They were just kind of sending us a message, like, go away, move on. And so uh, we had to get back to town. And actually, now there was a brook for us to jump over, which wasn't there before.
Uh,
And the brook was probably 10 feet wide. And I was kind of concerned that I wasn't going to clear it, and that our feet would get wet. And we're up in the mountains, and I didn't want to
oh,
have wet feet for the 4 mile walk. So fortunately, we all got across that, but then we kind of hustled back into town because we were afraid that truck was going to come looking for us. So we didn't
yeah.
really know what to expect, honestly. But it all worked out, and was one of those experiences that you just never forget.
Wow. And did you ever run across any of the people that were at the ceremony that were family or friends of the deceased?
No, no,
Wow.
no.
What a
Yeah, that was
story.
really the end of the story. I mean, that was really it. Just a memory that will never leave you now. I ended up typing it all up, documenting it as a story, because I just wanted to make sure I always remembered all the details of what had happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's now, were there other non-family members and friends there like you guys?
I believe so, but understand, we could not communicate with them. They spoke Tibetan. I spoke very little Chinese, so there was really no way to communicate other than just sign language. So to me, I didn't know who was being buried.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't know where they were from, but Tibetans tend to like the backpackers because they're a nomadic culture. So they are wandering around the countryside, and they appreciate when they see Westerners who, with their backpacks on, there's a bit of a kindred spirit there. So Tibetans tend to be quite warm and welcoming to the Westerners. This is back then, when there was really no established Chinese sponsored tourism of Tibet. But back then, you had to kind of get in with your backpack and make your own way on your own, and they kind of respected that.
And because you had cigarettes and stuff like that, once you showed them that, is that when they kinda waved you in?
Yep. Yeah, I think and I don't think it was really how much we offered. I think it was the fact that we were offering.
Yep.
So, I went in with a carton of cigarettes, a small bottle of booze. I don't think the booze actually ever got opened. It was just handed over to someone, but the carton of cigarettes got opened. Everybody had a cigarette, kind of hang out.
Wow. Now how many people were there?
I would say about 25, and
And
there was four of us.
did you get a sense that there were other ceremonies within a couple miles of where you were?
I believe that each town has each what I'd call a town, what we probably think of more like a small village,
Yeah.
has a location for this purpose. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And this was the one for Lhasa, which was the capital. So probably more activity there than at the others.
Yeah. Holy cow, I love when firsts are on the show here. That's definitely a first. I don't know that I
Yeah, it's
don't
really
know that
unusual.
yeah. And, well, very few Westerners probably have ever been able to be a part of that, so I think you're in a rare community at that.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been something so you enjoyed your time over there in China, in school, and the travel?
I did. We were one of the first 12 Americans ever to go on a full exchange program with China. So we went to Nanjing Teachers College, and students from Nanjing Teachers College went to my school, Union College, upstate New York. But back then in '86, there weren't a lot of white people roaming the streets in China, and the Chinese government was really afraid to have us corrupt their youth. So they built a separate dorm for us to live in. They ended up building a separate cafeteria for us to take our meals in. We had a guard on a hall of this newly built dorm that kept an eye on us. So it was a kind of a strange time for a kid in college to be in China. We had to register in and out of towns. If we wanted to travel, we'd have to go to the police department and say, tomorrow we're planning on taking a bus to
Wow.
Suzhou or wherever we were going. And then upon arrival, we'd have to go right to the police station to sign in, so they knew where we were all the time.
Yeah.
So different, but I had a wonderful time. I learned to appreciate the Chinese culture, its history, and all that. But the problem was kind of finishing in Tibet really left a very sour taste in my mouth as far as what the Chinese had been doing and continue to do in Tibet, which is basically bringing in so much Chinese population to make them a minority and kind of take steps to erase their culture, their religious sites, and all that sort of thing. So it left a very sour taste in the end, although I had a great time overall.
And while you were over there, is that where you learned to appreciate and perfect your skills of haggling and bartering when you bought something?
Yeah, it's a must. It's a must. Um, I actually think I perfected those skills traveling back to Asia as a young professional in the years afterwards. But yes, you have to learn to uh, bid very low and give up very little ground. It's not like you're. I was thinking realtors when they negotiate, they tend to meet in the middle quite a bit. It
Yeah.
seems to me, and this is not the sort of scenario you want to meet in the middle. You want to claw every little bit, make them earn every little bit of yuan and money and savings that they want to take from you. You have to be very careful with it.
In the conversation you and I and Anu and Mark had about that, Mark was on a couple of weeks ago telling the story about May, his wife, when she went and offered like $2 for a $150 earring or,
Yeah,
a necklace.
yeah,
And what you guys the other thing I learned was it was disrespectful not even to counter their price.
that's right. Yeah, I mean it's the negotiation. Let's say you're in some sort of department store, gift store in Beijing. I mean, there is an assumption that you're going to negotiate, and so they're going to throw out a really high price, and you're expected to come back with a super low price. And if you don't, and you just say no thanks, they kind of get upset about that, and will. If you start walking away, they'll pull you back and say, "Hey, come on, give me something to work with here. Let's do this thing." And so there's a little bit of that culturally. You should negotiate.
Oh, that would be so much fun. I had a chance to go to Russia years and years ago, and I love that. Just yeah.
I loved it for a few years. It does get old after a while, but you're constantly amazed by how low of a price or sale price you can walk away from when they start so super high.
Yeah.
So, I had gone to those like knockoff markets where there's North Face jackets that, supposedly fell off a truck, but in fact, they're just being pirated and copied. And so they'll ask for 200, let's call them dollars, and you counter with $1.50. They feign shocked that you would dare say $1.50, but an hour later you're walking away for $3.25. You've got the jacket,
And they're happy because the cost of goods was like 78 cents, and so everybody
exactly.
wins. Yeah,
And there's some Westerners out there where they start at $250, $300, and they negotiate them down to $150. They feel really good. The vendor's like, okay, good, we did our thing. You can go your way now. I'm set for the month.
Everybody makes money on that deal. So, all right, folks, if you've got granite or marble or grout that needs to be cleaned, anything like that, we've talked about a number of things that Lawrence does at Marblelife. We put his phone number up on the screen. What's the best website for them to go learn more about what you do, Lawrence?
Just marbleliferaleigh.com
Okay.
will get you there, or Marblelife in general will give you a sense of the organization. It shouldn't be too hard to find.
Yeah, and as we talked earlier, kind of joking about it, but not really joking about it, there's some things you kind of need to leave to professionals. In marble and granite's kind of one of them. You can cut your own lawn, you can mess that up because you can fix that, but you don't want to mess up marble or granite, whether it's on the floor or countertops or anything like that. So please reach out to professionals like Lawrence, and I know he'll be able to take good care of you for that. And Lawrence, we have enjoyed having you on the show today and learning about Tibetan Sky Burials. I was amazed the first time you told me that, and I was glad you're able to share that with everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was kind of a fun trip down memory lane for myself, so thank you for that.
And we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.